bringing you inside the USL Championship and League One.
Segmer's got there. Markanich! He's been knocking on the door! He knocks it down!
Diving into all the biggest stories and top headlines.
You are ripping and roaring today.
This is USL All Access.
It's almost impossible to recreate that level of magic.
With Mike Watts and Devon Kerr on Sirius XM FC.
Welcome, everybody, to USL All Access. A very happy Tuesday night, wherever you might be. And we have just 5 to 7, depending on games in hand, remaining the USL Championship season. We've got a new record holder for single-season goals. We've also got a potential ownership change in the offing in North Carolina to chat about. Also, a national TV last week to talk about, national TV this week to talk about, and very different stakes than we anticipated. Also, Jon Bakero joining us. Attacking midfielder from Memphis. You may remember him from Phoenix or Wake Forest, for that matter. Speaking of someone you may remember doing a Wake Forest game, Devon Kerr joins me. Mike Watts, Emmett McConnell's at the controls. The lead ACC analyst and College Cup analyst, Apple TV, ESPN2, CBS Sports Network, Big CBS. If it's a USL game or an MLS game or a college game or just a game of Tiddlywinks, Devon's on it. Devon, let's do the thing, shall we?
I missed that game, by the way. I missed Tiddlywinks so much. Life was so much simpler when it was just a box of toys and yourself and quiet.
Dev,
you have
let's
a favorite
talk.
game?
I don't. I really don't.
You look like a big Uno guy.
I'm the opposite of an Uno guy, but I'll reverse this and throw it at you.
Oh, look at that.
Let's go. Dev, it's really only just a game for Nick Markanich.
Yeah.
For so many people, getting to the single season scoring record has been get to 18 or 20, and the momentum just dies. That was not the case for Nick Markanich this past weekend. He had already tied the record at 25 against Tampa Bay. He scores number 26 and 27 in a 3-1 win for Charleston Battery. Nick Markanich now stands alone, passing Haji Berry in 2021 and Cam Lancaster in 2018, and their 25 goal outbursts as the all-time single-season goal-scoring record holder in the USL Championship. Nick Markanich, look, the way the goals were scored gave you that pause at the beginning. So 12 goals in the first 10 games. We're thinking, wow, this is going to happen. But it wasn't just him. The Battery offense faltered midseason. What's occurred in the last 14 games, scoring 15 times, is another incredible rash of goal scoring that is as good as we've ever seen in this league, much less to do it twice in the same year. He is the leading scorer in U.S. soccer, as Ben Clemens has made abundantly clear to us from the Battery. No one else in pro soccer in the U.S. has more than 20. Dev, my favorite stat before I get your feedback on what has been a historic year, and there's still 5 games to go for the Battery, and before he makes the move to CD Castellon in the second division of Spain in the winter window, a deal that's already been agreed upon. Charleston has seen him score in 19 games this year. They are 17-0-2 in games in which he's scored. He and MD Myers have rewrote the duo record book as well. They've combined for 40 goals. I didn't see this coming. I don't know that anyone saw it coming on January 1st. Even the Battery probably thought MD Myers would be more likely to get the record. But Nick Markanich, incredible season. He scored the first goal 10 times, only 5 pens. It may never get matched. I mean, we spent the better part of a decade trying to find another 25-goal scorer.
Yeah, we never really thought that anyone would ever go by Cameron Lancaster. And even in the year that Haji Berry did it, we had doubts early. You and I carried that dialogue throughout the entirety of the season that we didn't really think that he would ever get there. And he struggled to get just to the line. So the fact that Markanich has not only surpassed it, but has games remaining in order to continue to add to his total, it's pretty staggering. You mentioned the most impressive stat to you was the amount of games that he scored in, and certainly what the record is on the backside. I don't disagree with you. I think that there are so many stats associated with his growth as an individual, to step away from the team for a second. A guy that at FC Cincinnati 2 scored in 26% of his games. A guy that last year marked in 36% of the matches that he played in for the Charleston Battery. It was 4 and 15. It was 11 and 36, if I'm not mistaken. To me, the level of consistency within him has been very impressive. I think he's grown as a player in terms of how he's been challenged by Ben Pierman as a footballer, what Lee Cohen has asked him to do off the field. This is a kid, he's not exactly a big talker in front of the camera, but they've been able to develop that, which helps on the leadership side, which cultivates more relationships on the field. And certainly the overall product has gotten better for Nick Markanich on the outside at the beginning of the year. That's all it really was, respectfully. That's not to say that part of that game wasn't there, Mike, but it was more the cut in on the left, let me have a strike. The balls at the top of the box, let me have a strike. I see so much more interchange out of him within that system for the Charleston Battery now that makes me see him becoming more of a complete footballer. And as I mentioned, more of a complete person. We talked a little bit about this on air last night about the fact that he is a proven goal scorer. And I threw this stat up there so that people recognize that at the collegiate level, he never had less than 6 goals in a season. And for people that don't know, you're playing anywhere from 16 to 24 games in a year. If you've got 6 and 16 on the low end, Mike, that's not bad whatsoever in terms of production. So his freshman year, 8, second year, 6, junior year, 9, and then he exploded in his senior year for 16. I do see a level of progression within him. Who knows how long we're going to be able to see what he's going to be able to do. And what I mean by that is, as we've said, his move to Castellón, we want him to hit it right away. That way he gets more reps. My biggest fear is that he gets lost in the moment and that the team does as well. But we don't need to worry about that right now. What we need to worry about is saying, I never thought it was going to happen. Never thought that he was going to break this record. Coming into the year, didn't think anybody would break the record. And just one capper on the back end, which I apologize for last week, lest we forget that as tight as that race is above the Eastern Conference, and that it's basically those two teams there, Mike, we also said, second national TV game we had this year. We had Louisville and Indy. The second one, we had Charleston, Louisville. And I told everybody, as did you, and I said, this is great what Nick Markanich is doing. Do not sleep on MD Myers in the 9. And MD Myers and Nick Markanich have now broken the record for most goals by a scoring duo in USL Championship history. 13 and 27, respectfully, sitting on 40 with an opportunity to grow. They broke the record set in 2019 by Adam John and Solomon Asante. So yes, let's give all the credit to Nick Markanich. He deserves it. Personal growth. They got a pretty good striker up top in the 9 as well.
And Devin, the reality is the 2018 USL Championship and even the 2021 USL Championship are enormously different than the one that he's scoring 27 goals in now. And I'm not saying you need to add the level of difficulty points. I just think it's vital that we acknowledge, taking nothing off what's been achieved before, he did this against substantially better competition.
Yes. Yeah. And that's not just our opinion. That is a conversation we have regularly with managers, with GMs, with staff about how different it is. And while I will say that the disparity between 21 and 24 is not as great as 18 to 21, it is certainly light years from 18 to 24. It's not even a question.
I'm looking at this right now, right? Cameron Lancaster. Again, no knock, but hat trick against New York Red Bulls, brace against New York Red Bulls, goal against Atlanta, Toronto. Atlanta again, Philadelphia 2, brace. He got like 10 of his 26 goals against
lower competition, if you will. I will say that 2018 Red Bull team was not the Red Bull team that we saw towards the latter end of their tenure in USL Championship, but your point still stands.
It was sort of the beginning of that move into all young all the time, which obviously led to a very different Red Bull at the end. All right, Nick Markanich, 27 goals. He has set the USL Championship scoring record. He still has 5 games to go, so could he hit 30? Maybe.
So, something to add, by the way, just one little quote that I want to put in here for for context of the recruiting side for the Charleston Battery, as well as the individual. And I was looking for this quote as we were talking. Ryan Swan, the head coach of Northern Illinois, recruited Anthony and Nick Markanich to come there. And there was a quote that I wrote down covering him for the draft that always took me. I talked about it through the draft process when we were in MLS Super Draft, and it's sitting right here in front of me. He's one of the ones off the field that truly changed the culture of the team to where we needed to be. The extra work, always at our indoor facility, no matter the ask or responsibility, always pushing the limits. If that's not the representation of the player that they got, Charleston, what he's doing, I don't know what is.
Love it. Congratulations, Nick, and congratulations as well on slaying all the doubters, myself included. Sometimes you just got to say you were wrong, and I was wrong. All right, Dev, national TV, you had the call with Josh Eastern. How about Detroit City spotting an upset on Louisville City? Detroit hangs in fourth. They are 4 points ahead of Birmingham, 5 points over Rhode Island and Indy for that fourth and final home game. They've snuggled right up with Tampa Bay all of a sudden. Louisville City, that's a setback. Philip Goodrum gets sent off in that game right after halftime. It was 1-1 going into the break because of a Sean Tosh penalty, but the opener, the finisher came from Rutz, the opener for Maxi Rodriguez. For Detroit, that has to feel pretty good.
Yeah, it's a big-time win. I wouldn't say it was a complete performance from Detroit City. It was a perfect first half outside of the mistake at the end by Stephen Carroll and Carlos Saldana. Defensively stout, obliterated the midfield for Lou City, made them play a physical, disruptive game in terms of a lack of tempo for Lou City. They tried to go direct, weren't able to get it, removed their presence on second and third balls. They destroyed him in the first half, and they deserved to have the lead. Unfortunately, again, the ball that gets played through, Stephen Carroll stops. He shouldn't have, didn't put a body on the player. On Wilson Harris, and Saldana comes out, gives up the pen. Second half was a very different conversation. The red card changed everything, and not because Lou City went down to 10 and struggled. No. The game at that point in time was a 1-1 game, and it was better for them going down to 10. It hurts me to even say it, but they were better. And this is what happens to teams when it's emotional, Mike, and the game's not going for you, is you band together and you find a way to stay tighter. You recognize your push points more appropriately. You'll go, okay, we don't have the ability to do all that anymore. So let's simplify our process and then chase a result. That's exactly what they did. They gambled. They threw numbers forward on a set piece that then got cycled back out. They gambled. How many times have we seen Damian Loss come off his line and get that right? You know, there was so much to it. Their numbers too high. It was really well done by Maxi Rodriguez to play it early, and they get the goal. Again, not a complete performance by Detroit City, but very well done. And all of a sudden, they've turned off a couple of pretty decent results against some teams that were above them. Remember, they beat the Tampa Bay Rowdies at Ailing a couple of weeks ago. They've drawn a couple of these teams that are sitting in top four positions. And as you and I have always said, when you play Detroit City, the only thing that you care about, respectfully, is that you don't want to go to Keyworth. Well, that's an all too near reality for everybody in the Eastern Conference. And right now, deservedly so, it seems that they might have booked their ticket into a top four.
Yeah,
might have.
The reality is, I looked at the end of August, and they had lost to Tulsa at home, drawn Hartford at home, went to El Paso and drew. So two teams you should be beating on home ground, and typically they do.
Look
right?
terrible.
Now you've beaten New Mexico and Louisville at home. It would get them a home playoff game in the first round. You'd have to say if the 4-5 game right now were them in Birmingham, they'd be favored, and rightfully so, although Birmingham is actually typically better on the road than they are at home for whatever reason. And then you get the 1-4 matchup, and that's the buzzsaw. If you are Tampa Bay or Charleston, Tampa Bay or Detroit, would you rather go to Charleston or Louisville in the second round?
You'd rather go to Charleston.
Well,
I'm not going to Louisville.
That's where the 4-1 game gets you in trouble. So getting over Tampa Bay, and you got 3 points on them this past weekend, is significant.
And the reason I said, by the way, is yes, it's significant. But the reason I said that they might have just booked their postseason in the top four, and here's why. 5 games remaining for Detroit, 6 for Indy. That sounds like a lot of games. But with the separation in the Eastern Conference right now, that is between those two. There's 4 points. I know I'm not including Birmingham in that conversation. There's a reason, but there's 4 points, excuse me, 5 between Detroit and Indy. There is enough in terms of schedule there left for Indy to close the gap. The problem is Indy has to play Detroit. And that's why I say that they might have just booked it. Indy, by the way, down the stretch has an abominable schedule where they have to host Louisville. They have to host Birmingham. That's a team right there in front of them as well. They also go to Tampa and go to Detroit. You know, they play loud in Miami. But in that conversation, Indy, they hold their fate. Indy has the ability to beat both Birmingham and to beat Detroit City down the stretch. To me, if they can win 3 of their remaining 6, in theory, because it's against Detroit and because it's against Birmingham, in theory, that should get them into a top 4. So anyway.
Yeah. And they get Miami. There's 3 free points.
Yeah. From the free throw line.
Ultimately, you need the right 3 or 4 wins there, and you're probably through.
Yeah.
All right, Dev, before we go to break, Sportico with a report this week that is tangentially, I suppose, related to the USL. North Carolina Courage and North Carolina FC under the same ownership group. There's a handful of minority celebrity owners involved in that, but really it's Steve Malik, a longtime board member for U.S. Soccer. The North Carolina Courage, apparently, according to Sportico, are set to be sold to the owner of the Milwaukee Bucks, who had been looking to buy an NWSL team for quite some time. The reality is, even with the 9-figure valuation, that valuation is on the NWSL team. It's not necessarily on the team in the championship. North Carolina, obviously, it's been an up-and-down endeavor. And the Railhawks for a long time in NASL, they come as NCFC to the championship, drop down, self-imposed to League One, get through the pandemic, come back up to the championship this year. Dev, there's no reporting at all in that Sportico piece about what this looks like for NCFC. For all we know, this is a NWSL standards, and the new collective bargaining agreement will substantially change the economics of that league. It's also worth noting it's not working in Cary from an NWSL perspective. They're averaging like 5,000 or 6,000 fans. It's among the lowest in the league, and they don't own that venue. The city of Cary owns that venue. There was an NWSL game earlier this year. I spoke to a GM who said, I wanted to pull my team off the field because a typically immaculate pitch had been torn up in the weeks before by another event, and we were able to literally lift the turf off the field, place the ball under it, and take a picture. So Cary doesn't necessarily care about NCFC or the Courage, and that changes the economics of it substantially. I'm not sure what you've heard or what you think, but obviously that Sportico article probably has some people feeling a little jittery in the research triangle.
Well, I've heard a lot. The rumblings have been there for quite some time. I remember mentioning this to you, 2 months ago now? Roughly?
Mm-hmm.
Behind the scenes of something that had come through. Let's be clear. In terms of Cary not caring, I would go a step further, and I don't know the person, but given what I've heard behind the scenes and what's been made available to the guys at North Carolina FC, I don't know how much interest was actually given to the USL Championship Club either. And that's sad to say. I can remember having conversations with Dave Sarakin when he was in charge there about what it looked like. I can remember talking to players that were playing there and what it looked like. And I don't mean all of that negative, because there was some talent that came through there, man. I mean, they had Akeem Ward was there. Mario Salomas was there. Lest we forget that Manny Perez started his career right out of North Carolina State there. There was some MLS stuff going on. Graham Smith was there. Ben Spees was there. I'm going through right now just the 2020 roster. Dre Fortune. I never really felt like the ownership group gave them enough to try and find a way to succeed. So the self-imposed temper tantrum that is, I'm not willing to pay the money necessary in order to survive, forget prosper at the USL Championship level, to then stomp your feet even further because you won League One and you want to come back up. This league doesn't need that, man. These players in that organization deserves better. That's how I feel about that.
All right. Well, we'll
If
see.
it comes true, to be fair, if that's true, like at the end of the day, I'm about the betterment for the league and the players, and that ain't happening with that situation.
And look, the reality is, if the Courage do in fact get sold, you'd imagine that an NBA ownership is looking to own their own destiny from an economic perspective. Maybe they do get their own venue. Now North Carolina FC gets that stadium by themselves again, which is where they were in 2012 to 17.
Yep. And to cap it on my end, just to be clear, we're speculating. We're guessing. We don't know. I can tell you this. Let's say he does keep the team. Since they've come into USL Championship, my comments still stand. Whether you're leaving the team or not. Be better, do more, help grow the game. Done.
All right, so that's a report from Sportico that we felt was certainly related to the championship at this point in time. As we get more info or see more reporting on it, certainly we'll be willing to chat about it more. But that's sort of where it is right now. A lot of speculation, a lot of wait and see. All right, when we come back, Memphis midfielder Jon Bakero, former Herman winner, also former Phoenix Rising champion. Plenty to talk about. It's all coming up right here on USL All Access.
Let's get back to USL All Access on Sirius XM FC with Mike Watts and Devon Kerr.
Welcome back, everybody, to USL All Access on this beautiful Tuesday evening, September the 24th. And do I have a special treat for you? Mike Watts is out walking the cat. Just kidding. Our guest this evening, as we notated before coming on, is Jon Bakero. Jon currently with Memphis 901 FC in USL Championship Western Conference, sitting right there at that final coveted home playoff spot, number 4, tied with Las Vegas Lights. There's a lot we want to cover here. For people that aren't aware of Jon's background, 27-year-old midfielder. Interesting background on the youth side. We're going to get to that in a little bit. Father, great Spaniard, men's national team, Barcelona, Real Sociedad, you name it. Star Wake Forest. Great shout, by the way, and didn't even realize in my head that you played for both coaches. We'll get there as well, culminating in a Mac Herman Trophy in 2017. Chicago Fire, Toronto FC, Phoenix Rising. Couple past 2.5 years, if my math is correct. Normally it's not. Spent between Bulgaria and Spain before his return to Memphis in the USL Championship in July. That's kind of the background. My man, Jon, great to have you, man. Miss seeing your face, miss seeing your talents. How we been?
Not too bad, not too bad. Really happy to be here in Memphis. Really glad that you invited me to talk, and yeah, really excited to get into it.
He's also a very good liar, as you can tell. Just kidding. So, Jon, let's start. I want to start with this, man. Number one, all the conversations we've shared, time I've spent covering you, I've never had the conversation with neither Jay Vidovich nor Bobby Muse. How did you end up in this country? How did you get to Wake Forest, and how did that decision come in front of you that you felt like that was the place you wanted to go to play?
Yeah, it all came really fast. So I was 17-year-old high schooler, senior in high school, and it was the spring. So it was really late in the process. And I remember Wake's, one of their players went pro. So one of the kids that was incoming in freshman year went pro, and they had some opening, and through some friends back home from my dad, reached out to Jay. Jay happened to be in Europe. He flew into Barcelona to see me train for 5 days. I committed to Wake without ever setting foot on campus. And, that August, a 17-year-old kid from Spain that hadn't really been to the U.S., I'd never been on a college campus, and that's where my journey started here in the U.S.
And you had the unique opportunity. I'll say unique. I carry relationships with both of them, but unique opportunity. Correct me if I'm wrong. You were with both Jay Vidovich and then Bobby Muse came in at the end of his retirement, correct? What was that like between those two guys?
Yeah, so Jay was the one who brought me in. Great relationship with him. Still stay in touch with him, and super thankful for the opportunity he gave me. He saw me training for a couple of days, and bringing a 17-year-old kid, that was huge for me. I had no idea what college soccer was. I never watched a game, so I didn't know what to expect. And, Jay brought me in and really helped me out in that freshman year. And then it was a shock when he left at the end of my freshman fall, and Bobby came in, and again, I didn't know who he was. And I think He was so helpful. I'm so thankful for Bobby because he helped me so much. And you know, it was not always easy, but you know, I think my college career was amazing. I love Wake Forest. I'm super thankful for my time there, and thankful for to both Jay and Bobby because you know they helped me make that big step to be a professional footballer, and that was my objective.
What a jump, by the way, to go from this Jay Vidovich walk you through it type thing to Bobby Muse, who is this is what you got to do, man. I mean, two very different personalities, two great footballing minds, as you mentioned, and an awesome place for people that don't know. If you haven't had the opportunity to experience Spry Stadium on a Friday night with that group behind the goal, one of the meccas in college soccer in the United States, take a journey to it if you get a chance. The 2017, as mentioned, win the Mac Herman. That for everybody that doesn't follow soccer in college, that is soccer's Heisman. It's the #1 football in the country. As voted on by the coaches and the press. You were drafted by the Chicago Fire, #5 overall. Fire, the opportunities didn't really come regularly for you. I remember in 18, they loaned you to Tulsa for a couple of games. And I remember a very specific conversation with Bobby Dooley when your name came up in 19 on the loan. And he mentioned me too, and I was like, dude, you're crazy not to go and get this guy if it becomes available. And I think your chats had just started coming around prior to the loan. Bobby Dooley, by the way, front office man, now president of Phoenix Rising, general manager back then. Not only did you get loaned to Phoenix in 19, a successful stint, there was an absolute war cry on social media to bring you back, and bring you back they did. You were part of the 19 team that set all kinds of records. Most people consider one of, if not the best team ever in USL Championship history. You were also there to run to the final in 2020, the final that unfortunately we did not get to see take place, and then 2021 prior to departure across seas. Describe your time to me at Phoenix, #1. And before we get into the specifics of Memphis, how different the league is since coming back.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, my relationship with Phoenix started in 2018. I was on loan, like you mentioned, from Chicago to Tulsa, and I went to play there, and I was like, damn, this place is amazing. Electric, the stadium, the fans, and you know, that kind of stayed with me. And then the following year, you know, I definitely wanted to go out and get some solid minutes, and the opportunity to go to the USL was a huge one for me. And you know, I kind of said, you know, if I have to go somewhere, I want to go to Phoenix, and thankfully enough, that worked out, and we had that amazing season where you know we played so well, but other than that, like the guys were amazing, the club did everything right, you know, and when it came to 2020, I knew that's where I wanted to be. And you know, those 2 next years there within 2020 with the COVID year was really tough, not being able to play that final, you know, but obviously getting a trophy in 2019, the Western Conference in 2020, you know, I think that always stuck with me. And you know, now one of the motivations coming back is, you know, I haven't won the championship, and I want to achieve that. You know, that was kind of stripped away from me on 2020, and I want to get there. And like you said, I think the league has grown so much, even from 2018, my first game in the league. The league has grown so much. The players, the quality of the coaches, the quality of the players, quality of the facilities. It's great to come back and see that growth as well.
I want to bring your background in. I mentioned you had an interesting childhood in terms of the youth setup. Your dad, Jose Marie, I gave a little bit of his background. You know, played in 2 World Cups for Spain, the Euros in 1988, excuse me. It's Real Sociedad, it's Barcelona, Veracruz, of course. La Liga champion 6 times, right? I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And of course, European Cup, which for people that didn't know, and that's in 1992, was the previous name prior to being rebranded Champions League. What was it like, #1, growing up under a footballing legend, and then #2, the reason I say that it's an interesting background, well, certainly it's incredible to have that type of footballing pedigree. Looking into your youth, there was a little bit of not just the Spanish background, but some Polish in there as well, if I'm not mistaken. Like, so what was it like playing under your father and learning? And then where did the Polish aspect come in?
So I've been around the game my whole life, and I'm super thankful for it because I feel like I've just been blessed to to see all aspects of the game. You know, when I was a month old, we moved to Mexico. My dad was finishing up his career, and I've basically been on the bounce ever since. I think the longest I've lived in a place is 3 years. Even growing up, then he started his coaching career, and I think we moved around Spain. Then I think when I was 12 or 13, we moved to Poland, and that was a little later in the development phase, I guess, of the player, and you know, being able to play there and having to learn a new language, and you know, it was great for me, to be honest. I look at it as a super great experience that I had to do, and being in Poland, and then we went to Peru to coach, and we were there for a little bit, and I was training with teams, and I think all those things that definitely really helped me develop as a player, and most importantly as a person as well.
Why did you when the decision came about to come back, was it season over, I want to go back to the USL Championship, this is where I want to be? Was it, okay, what are the options, what's available? Basically the decision making to get to Memphis, and we don't have to talk team specifics, just how did your mind lead you back to the States?
Yeah, I was excited to come back. You know, I played in Europe for 2.5 years now. That's definitely something I wanted to do in my career, especially playing in Spain. It was really important for me to go back and have that experience. Obviously, being raised there, my family's there. Playing in front of my family was huge for me. You know, but yeah, I mean, I love it here in the U.S. I love the USL. It's a league that I've been following even when I was there. And you know, having teammates, friends that play in the league, and they speak so highly of where the league's at and the level. And, you know, I was motivated to come back and prove that to myself that I could still do it, you know, play here at a high level, and definitely really happy to be back and really happy to be in Memphis now.
That means you were stuck on the USL page on YouTube. You had to hear my voice, Mike Watts, all those guys. I apologize for that, man. I definitely owe you a night out for that one.
I'll remember that.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Actually, believe it or not, speaking of nights out, that picture right there, do you know where this was?
That's with Drogba, right? That's in Phoenix. I'm assuming
this was at the when you came in 2019. Remember the Players Awards? And
yeah,
that's what that was. That was fun. Good nights, good times. Yeah, another conversation for another time. 901 FC, Stephen Glass brings you in. Always, you know, you and I were chatting before coming on. Footballing mind challenges you. Certainly had the pedigree on the playing side. But what has he brought to your game, and how has he challenged you as a player since coming in?
Yeah, I mean, I had a conversation with him before coming, and you know, he's someone that's played at the highest level, Premier League, you know, first division in Scotland, and you know, that's people that you want to surround yourself with, and you know, I think he's building something great here in Memphis. I think the club in the past seasons has competed. It's definitely a team that everyone respects in the league, and you know, a very tough place to come play at. You know, and since coming here, I think. It's been great to work with them. I think the guys are definitely pushing to do something big this season, and you know, I just want to add whatever I can to this group, because I truly believe that we can make a run for it this year.
The group, Marlon, Bruno Lapa involved in that. Panos came over from Phoenix mid-season. Dylan Borchak, personal favorite of mine since coming out. Knight Pickering, the youngster. Luis Fernando, a guy who when is healthy, great footballer. Guys that to me have the mind to play the game and to put the ball on the deck and really move it. And it's something for me that 901 FC that Stephen Glass has brought to them. He's been smart in recruiting of the footballers, different than what Brent Pierman had. And certainly we kind of get an idea of what that system is at the Charleston Battery. Where do you feel like you guys are at in terms of playing and where this project is? To your point, came in mid to late July, so haven't had a ton of experience with it. But this is a very different 901 FC than we saw in 2019, 2020. That was sort of the walkover. This is a real contender right now that people are talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, look at the names you're saying, and then you add to the midfield, Samu Cariaga, Emerson Heineman, Zach Duncan. I mean, I can go through the whole squad and tell you all the names of the guys, because it's real competitive. You know, coming in mid-season to a team like this, it's not easy, and that's definitely it's hard to get minutes in a team like this, and I feel like that's a good thing. I think it shows the quality of the squad, the depth of the squad, and I think coming into this last part of the season, it's really important to have a good number of players that can win games. And I think the quality of the team is really high. Obviously, again, I can't compare because I haven't been in the US for 2.5 years. But from what I've seen, I think when we go and play anyone, we can beat anyone, and that's the mentality of the team right now.
There's also, and as you know, there's a big difference of sitting there watching it, kind of scouting on the television, and then being in it, right? Feeling the emotion of the players of the game, what guys are actually like in person. To that point, based upon what you've seen in the league so far since coming back, what's the most difficult team you faced? Whether that be because of talent, adversity, the physical side of the game, tactically they challenged you. Who do you think's been the best?
Well, the circumstances in Charleston weren't great because we got an early red card, and I think that influenced the game. I think we're still in it, but obviously you can see their quality and how good of a team they are. I think right now they show their strengths, but to answer your question, I feel like there's no one that I see that is way better than us or even better than us. I feel like we can beat anyone any given day, to be honest.
You're going to get an opportunity down the stretch. 901 FC and Jon Bakero will travel to Louisville City on the weekend. The next 4 games after that, neither home nor away, just rattling them off. Oakland, Sac, friendly Phoenix. You'll be in Phoenix for that one, I have to say that. And then you end at New Mexico United. Heck of a tough stretch coming down, but certainly an opportunity for you and all of your teammates to showcase all of your assets down the stretch, bud, and make a run at this thing. That's Jon Bakero. Jon, thank you so very much, man. Good luck to you and your teammates down the stretch.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great talking to you.
There goes Jon Bakero of Memphis 901 FC. Again, to Louisville on the weekend. Bunch of playoff implications in their last couple of matches, currently 4th in the Western Conference, and an opportunity to host that coveted home playoff game in the first round. Right around the corner, Mike Watts will come back from walking the cat, in theory. We'll talk results on the weekend. We'll preview matches to come, including that Sac New Mexico game on Sunday night. Stick around. This is USL All Access on Sirius XM FC.
Giving insight to all the biggest moments in Championship and League One. This is USL All Access on Sirius XM FC with Mike Watts and Devon Kerr.
We're back here on USL All Access. Miss a part of Devon's epic interview with Jon Bakero. It's available tomorrow on the USL YouTube page, also on the Sirius XM app.
Hey, just a quick one before we get going here. Should we introduce the friends that are in the room today or no?
Go for it.
I just
what
thought
would you like to introduce?
I would just like all the listeners at home to know that it's Take Your Dog to Work Day. And for the people on Sirius XM Radio, the video has just pulled down to look at my youngest pup. His name is Trace. He is a Vizsla. If we go a little bit further, I will try and figure out in the bottom corner, again, Sirius XM FC. I apologize. This is my other guy, Finley. These are my boys. This is my lifeline, my heartbeat. Yes, I have 3 sons, but you never forget the OGs. And I just wanted to say hello and introduce them because, as you know, Mike, they're a big part of my family.
That. Obviously, we spoke about Bailey the Bully a couple weeks ago. Yeah. Charlie the Cockapoo turned 14 this weekend.
Ooh, is Charlie the Cockapoo in the room passing gas or no?
Not at the moment, no. Okay. But my wife did get him a really cute little hat and a nice bandana.
Do you think they have inner dialogue? And I know we're digressing, of when they come on, you put the hat on, one of those things, kind of like a Look Who's Talking movie where it's like, get this thing off me right now.
He just whacked it right off his head the first time. It's
not
like,
even dialogue, just
buddy,
see you later.
This is happening.
Got it.
Cannot believe this is a soccer show. All right, Dev, let's break down a little bit of the last weekend. Rip through the results here. Rhode Island 2-1 over Tulsa. Rhode Island comes from behind in that game. Albert Dikwa, game winner in stoppage time. Rhode Island move into 6th. They're 5 points out with 5 games to go of a home playoff game, with Detroit also winning. El Paso and Colorado Springs finish 1-1. El Paso steals a couple points off of Colorado Springs. Switchbacks a little bit lucky. Catastrophic week for Sacramento, and so they hold on to 4th place and make that 2nd place. All the while, Las Vegas move into 4th. They're only 2 points out of 3rd by beating Sacramento 2-1. Kieran Phillips got the opener in that. Las Vegas comes from behind to win it. Sacramento ultimately down a man. Chibi Okebu got sent off in that game. New Mexico 1-0 over Loudoun. Keegan Hughes, an own goal, the only marker in that game. Birmingham avoids the Miami banana peel 1-0. Darwin Matthews scoring in stoppage time. Birmingham hangs in fifth, much needed. Dev, let's dig a little deeper. Phoenix 4, San Antonio nothing. A week ago, I said San Antonio was going to get in. Thanks a lot.
I'm not laughing about the fact that they will or will not get in. I'm laughing about the fact that you were so committed. I even questioned you.
You did.
And so I was like, "You sure?" I was like, "What? No chance."
My man, what are we doing? Pop Marboy and Dark Formella scored the first half. Charlie Dennis and Damian Parker John scored in the second half. Phoenix, that may have been the most statistically complete performance of their season.
Well, it's certainly the most goals that they've scored all year long. I'd like to address the fact that, give them a lot of credit for the performance overall. Everything that we've talking about what could be top quality talent within the midfield and moving forward, it finally came to fruition. I'm looking at the schedule down the stretch here, Mike, and this is pretty favorable. They've got Monterey Bay, they've got Orange County, they've got Oakland. To me, those 3 out of the remaining 7 should be guarantees, given the form that everybody is in and what Phoenix is capable of. The problem is, out of those 7, you also have to host Las Vegas. You have to travel to New Mexico United. You have to host Memphis. And the final match of the year, you have to go to Louisville, a rematch of the 2018 USL Championship final. I don't know, Mike, if 9 points out of the remaining 7 games is enough. It should be.
It is funny because we've been sitting here kind of going, well, Phoenix has games in hand, and then you get to the end of it and you look at what's left and you go, not only do you have to play the 7 games, right, in terms of strength of schedule, you also have to play 7 games in 5 weeks.
Yep, and I'll make it simpler. I will say it now. I will commit to it, saying it should be. It will be. Phoenix will get into the playoffs. It's going to happen. Friendly reminder for everybody at home, while I'm not comparing this team and the personnel to last year, this team did finish 6th last year, and they have an opportunity, given games in hand, to finish in 6th, possibly a little bit further, considering they have to track down Vegas and Memphis and those teams in front of them. Phoenix will get into the playoffs.
Speaking of Vegas, that 2-1 win over Sacramento means what?
I've said and maintained for about 6 weeks, 8 weeks now that I said about 2.5 months ago that I thought there was a possibility they could get top 4. For about a month now, I said they will get top 4. That's what they're capable of. I thought this game would have done it. I don't think it did, but they're still right there. My bigger takeaway from the game, Mike, to be honest, isn't on Vegas' side, it's on Sacramento's side. And they just, again, Mark Briggs talked about the game against New Mexico on the midweek, and he said that he felt like their first half performance was their best of the season. Number one, notice he didn't say the full game. Number two, it's a little bit scary that we're talking about that in September. I think you could have a takeaway and say, well, it's a good thing that they're peaking at the right time, but they're not. This team just looks a shell of themselves in terms of chance creation in the final third. They don't have that get up and go. It's a good story another time. And also, Mike, he said that was their best performance in the first half, and they lost the game 3-1. So I'm more fearful of what the fall could continuously be for Sac as I look down. As tight-knit as it is in the Western Conference right now, I mean, there's no way, we've said it, there's no way anybody's catching New Mexico, certainly not Sac. They're a point off of second place. That's great. They're also only 4 points ahead of sixth. So, fearful.
Meanwhile, Hartford 2-0 over Oakland. Hairston and Edwards both score. Scarlett sent off. Hartford finishes down a man for 40. So fair to say Oakland is who we thought they were? Or is it too soon? Okay.
I've said it. I've maintained the entire time that I didn't think they were a top 4 team. They were a playoff team, just not top 4.
And I think both of those will end up being accurate. All right, real quick before we go to break, the Western 8th place pillow fight, that's trademarked. Do any of these teams want to get in the playoff edition? Monterey Bay and Orange County 0-0. Monterey Bay misses a chance to move to 8th. Orange County hangs on to 8th with the 1 point by 1 point. Monterey Bay, 17 shots, 6 on target. It is flippin' unbelievable that they are still in playoff contention, 10 winless. Meanwhile, Tulsa loses to Rhode Island and San Antonio lose to Phoenix, meaning both failed to win and get into a playoff position against teams that entered the weekend outside the top half of the league. I don't know that we're going to get a single GD upset in the first round of these playoffs of a 1, 2, or 3 seed because I'm not sold on anybody beneath 6th place in either of these conferences.
Can I just say that for Christmas this year, I am either going to receive from you or will be purchasing a custom shirt that says 8th place pillow fight. Trademarked. I'm going to need to make sure that there's no infringement on your end or no suit filed based upon the fact that this is going to happen. I'm with you. It's abysmal. That's all I got. I don't need to say anything else. You ripped it. It was perfect.
We're going to break. All right. When we come back, there's a lot of games this weekend. Sac, New Mexico isn't what we thought it was either, but it's still worth watching. We'll tell you why when we come back.
You're listening to USL All Access on Sirius XM FC. Here are your hosts, Mike Watts and Devon Kerr.
We're back here on USL All Access, the only show where the commercial breaks are more exciting than the show itself on Sirius XM FC. Mike Watts, Devon Kerr, Emmett's at the controls cutting this thing together. Let's talk about the week ahead in the championship. Sacramento, New Mexico, Part 2 coming up on Sunday, ESPN2, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 Pacific. It's in Sacramento. They play 10 days apart. Wednesday, New Mexico 3-1 over Sacramento. New Mexico can clinch the number 1 seed with the right results. Dev, I have written here, and I think it's obviously the operative thing. New Mexico is 11-2-2 at the Lab, one of the best home records, obviously Louisville historic in the league. Away 7-6-1. So for New Mexico to potentially wrap up a home game through the entire Western Conference, and it's a matter of when, not if at this point, really, really important for that club.
Well, they don't need to wrap up a home game. That's done. Mathematically, no. The first in the West is done. I mean, to be clear, we even said this 2 weeks ago when the gap, if I'm not mistaken, was like 4 points, right?
If Sacramento won both, there was a way forward.
If they won both. Yeah, and they didn't. Yeah, it certainly still must win for Sacramento Republic. For New Mexico United, this is more about a confidence thing and just maintaining a level of consistency, hitting that postseason run. Historically, we've always gone back and looked at the final 10 games of the year. And more often than not, you're seeing teams in the final 10 games with at least 5 wins to their name. That's what New Mexico United's goal here is, by the way. Little shout to New Mexico United and Eric Quill. I want to say an undervalued player, I think, that I've really enjoyed watching this year, seeing one of the recent games again, was Talon Maples, the defender who came over from the Houston organization and SMU with Kevin Hudson prior. I was just very impressed at how clean he has been on the ball in general, but towards the latter portion of the season, his distribution off the back line from whatever area they're deploying him in is very similar to the quality that you're getting out of that midfield. So important there. Sac need a representation up top. That's a gut check time for them.
All right, Dev, other key matches of the week. You'll see Sac, New Mexico, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time, Sunday night on ESPN2, where, you'll have to choose between us and Sunday Night Football, and I hope you choose us. It's the 249th time Devin and I have worked together. I don't think Tarico and Collinsworth can beat us on that.
No.
We're closing in on another big number.
We didn't finish the gift that we gave each other for 200.
No, I'm still working on that because it's in your house. Yeah, it's in your house. Yeah. That's a good story for next week. The meaning of that bottle. All right, Dev. Let's chat about a couple of other games this week that kind of matter. Orange County Phoenix play on Wednesday. Phoenix plays Las Vegas on Saturday. Phoenix has the games in hand on everybody. Orange County is a must-win given the strength of their schedule. Phoenix Las Vegas looks like a really fun game.
Yeah, the big thing for me about the Phoenix Las Vegas game isn't just the opportunities that are going to come out of the match, Mike. It's more so Vegas taking over this rivalry. Vegas taking over the Western Conference from the grasp of Phoenix Rising. And I'm talking about their rivalry in general. Overall, this rivalry has played 18 matches. There have been 70 goals. That's an average of almost 4, by the way. Phoenix has 10 wins, but Vegas is 3-1-2 in their last 7, including the 0-0 draw earlier this year. They have dominated recently. And the fact that Phoenix have to host them. I actually think it gives them more confidence because of how unruly and frustrated the fans are in Phoenix. Phoenix fans, by the way, again, I told you earlier, you finished 6th last year. Be a little bit happy. You hung a 4 spot on the weekend. Be grateful, applaud your team, support them. Maybe stop whining as much on social media. I think you're right to be frustrated, but let's forget there are bigger things here at this point in time in the season. Help push that team over the playoff line and give them some real confidence to go chase another title.
That'd be nice. Dev, couple other games that you've got in mind. Louisville, Memphis, real quick.
Memphis, this is it. This is no ifs, ands, or buts to show everybody that you belong, given some of the results we've seen this year. Certainly for Louisville with their games in hand, to make sure it doesn't become squeaky bum time towards the end of the season against the Charleston Battery. They can cement their number 1. Memphis can push themselves further away from Vegas in the top 4. They're on that tiebreaker right now.
And then Pittsburgh, Birmingham. It's a rivalry even when the game doesn't happen.
Got to be Dequa home, Dequa home, Dequa with Rhode Island. Got to be what used to be for the striking partnership of Pittsburgh up top. That's exactly what Tommy Sohn is looking for. We saw this team play some quality football last year. We haven't really seen it this year. We just had Robbie Mertz on saying that the Pittsburgh Riverhounds have the ability to go score against anyone. It's time to put up.
Dev, did you learn anything in this show?
I learned that both of these puppies could sit here without any sort of movement throughout the entire show and not actually be brought onto the show except unwillingly.
I learned that even though you can show Devin a new book, sometimes you knock over your victory bell. And who's the biggest loser now? This guy.
Oh, look at that Gary Bailey behind you, by the way.
I know. God. Even better without glasses. All right. For Devin, Mike, thanks for listening. We'll talk to you again next Tuesday night. Enjoy the games this weekend on CBS Sports and ESPN Networks. We'll talk to you again next week here on USL All Access.
This is USL All Access. If you missed any portion of the program, listen back anytime on the SXM app.